All right, welcome to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Monday, July 18th, 2022. Long time no see. Do apologize for the long absence. Life happens, just doing lots of research and just lots of stuff going on, right? But anyway, let's go ahead and get right to it because there's lots of big things that's happened over the last couple of weeks while we've been away. There's so much I need to catch up on. Tonight, though, I thought it'd be a good idea to discuss uh, what's going on right now, space weather-wise, and then we'll get into the whole climate stuff. But first, our solar wind speeds coming in at 470.5 kilometers per second with a density of 9.48. Sunspot number 166. Yes, the sun is active, and there's so many things that really come together now with this active sun. I'm going to go over that as well because, you know, we get accused of being the deniers over here, but yet we're the ones that show the science and the connection on why we believe what we believe. And I'll get right into that. First of all, we're talking about an active sun, right? 166 is pretty close to the 173 peak that we had a few weeks back. So far, I'm sorry, 177. So far, sunspot number 177 is the highest that we've seen so far in this solar cycle. Now, this 166 is definitely rivaling that peak earlier. But if you guys take a look over here at the very edge of our star, right in this area, big groups of sunspots are going to be turning away from Earth by tomorrow, and we won't have that number at 166 tomorrow. But there is some smaller activity here and also in the southern area. But also, I want to point out to you guys, these sunspots, look at how close we are now to the equatorial region. Look at this. These sunspots are almost right there in the middle. So we continue to watch the sun, and it's telling us that we're in a solar max. Hands down, folks. We are in a solar max for sure. How else can I prove this to you, you say? Well, I'll show you here just in a second. Cosmic radiation, by the way, is up to 3.9%. It's up 2.1% just over the last 2 days. And the reason why it dropped so much is we've had higher solar winds, and we're on the watch right now for July 21st or a possible G1 storm. Now, also, we also believe that this coronal hole that we're looking at here, the southern one and the northern ones, will be facing Earth somewhere around the 21st as well. So we could see a lot more seismic activity picking up here in the coming days. Volcanoes, earthquakes. We've already seen a plethora of 6-point and higher earthquakes over the last 10 days all over the globe, all over the Ring of Fire. Just lots to watch here, folks, especially when it comes to these coronal holes that will be turning Earth facing. Now, the good news is that the bigger one, anyway, is further south. It may not impact Earth as bad. Nonetheless, still lots going on. Plus, we've got sunspots that are going to be Earth-facing and almost at the equatorial region. So just lots of things to watch here over the next couple of days. Definitely will be doing more broadcasts this week. I'd like to follow the space weather as well. But how can we prove what's happening with the sun is also controlling what's happening with the jet stream, right? Well, let's quickly go into that, and then I'll go back to our Grand Solar Minimum page, because this is really important. All right. So, over here is the Earth null, as you all know. And I'm pointing this out for a reason. The jet streams are located very high, in fact, well above the northern parts of the United States and Canada. All right. Same thing down here in the southern hemisphere. These are very low, closer to the poles. This is an outcome of an active sun. Some very interesting information that I've come across. I've been half and half right about the the solar wind controlling the jet stream. Yes, the lower it is, the more wavy it is. But I've also forgotten to mention one of the more important things, and that is when we have, this is the active sun. And just like on Earth Null, clearly we can see the comparison. What this is a live look right now at the jet stream, and this is what it should look like during an active sun. More ozone in the stratosphere, less ozone in the mesosphere. Zonal jet streams are further north, and that's explaining, I love it, that's explaining what's driving these extreme temperatures across the middle part of the United States, right here. All right, you follow me? So we have a proven fact that an active sun impacts our jet streams by raising them closer to the poles, or in this case, dropping them down here in the southern regions. But either way, the jet stream, zonal jet streams during an active sun tend to trend towards the poles. And then, of course, during the solar minimum, meridional jet streams will drop. In other words, we're still seeing this northern jet stream, but you're seeing the waves drop even further than we do with an active sun. And that's exactly what we're seeing. Look at the waves, folks. See if I got this image up here real quick. Check this out. See how like little and compact they are? Okay, this is during a maximum. And then I'll go and show you once again the Earth Null. And it's exactly the same, guys. Whoops, wrong one. Look, very little, choppy, and let's get a better view of this here real quick. There you go. Let's see what that does. So, I mean, clearly, this is the proof of the active sun, what it does to the jet stream. It's raised up further north, and we don't see those big dips like we do during the minimums. Thus, we are going to see more temperatures, hotter temperatures, because that heat is allowed to push up as far as north as the border of Canada and the United States, which is typical in the summertime. The jet stream tends to migrate north, just like how people go south when it's winter up here in the north. The jet stream wants to go where it's cooler, allowing more hot air to go across the lower 48. So the headlines are going to talk about heat all over the place. And of course, I tweeted this out. By the way, follow me at JakeGSM on Twitter. But I tweeted this out and I asked someone to please vet this. I haven't seen any responses to this yet, but this is an article from AccuWeather talking about a heat wave that has seared much of the Iberian Peninsula since last week and has killed 1,000 people in Portugal and Spain. The majority of these deaths have occurred in Portugal, where 659 deaths were recorded last week. According to the General for Health, at least 368 deaths occurred in neighboring Spain in the same period. On July 10th, the first day of the heat wave, 15 heat-related deaths were recorded in Spain. Since the number of the daily deaths has increased every day across both Spain and Portugal as temperatures surpassed 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 38 degrees Celsius daily. That's hot. 100 degrees. I get that. That's hot. All right. It says here, reading on, the airport hit 108 degrees Fahrenheit. Folks, when you get a temperature report from the airport, and it's 108 degrees, subtract 4 to 6 degrees Fahrenheit off of that. Because the weather station official tools, I should say, the weather reporting sensors, are located on the tarmac. Right there where the sun is absorbing is just pounding the pavement, the blacktop. All right? So, again, you're taking a temperature reading from a sensor that is right on a tarmac that absorbs sunlight all day long. Anyway, 116 degrees In Portugal on Thursday, July 14th, broke a record highest temperature ever recorded in the country in July. Oh no, an anomaly that happened in the middle of summer. That's crazy. Global warming. I know. Oh, but wait. This country's previous July record stood at 115 degrees Fahrenheit, and when that one was set in 1995. Now, that's interesting to me because back in 1995, we had CO2 that was probably in the 360s, 360 parts per million. Why were we so hot back in 1995, right? I'm asking a reasonable question. Well, we're going to blame CO2 for everything, all right? And CO2 levels were much lower in 1995. But today, our temperatures, and actually it's something to look at here. I will check it out during the show. In fact, let's do it now. Dr. Roy Spencer has this awesome little temperature chart here, and everybody likes to complain about it because it's satellite information. Yeah, satellite data that he chooses the two in the middle out of the four reporting the data. So he tries to be non-biased as possible. And listen, we're talking about temperature data that's getting read from 2 meters above the surface. 2 meters is 6 feet. Most of us are between 5 and 6 feet tall anyway. So really, we're talking the slightest difference here, folks. This does not account for all the temperature reads that we see on mainstream all the time. Now, the reason why mainstream's temperature looks way higher than this is because of the reporting system. Like I said, we were talking about airports, rooftops. That's where these National Weather Service sensors are located, where they absorb the heat. This satellite data shows the same trend that we see on the surface temperatures, but not as exaggerated. In fact, right now we're sitting at a 0.06 above baseline. In 1995, we were looking at somewhere, looks like we were about 0.4 below baseline. Interesting to see that global temperatures in 1995 were almost a half degree below baseline, but yet we were still able to reach a high temperature of 115.7 degrees in Spain. All I'm trying to show you guys is that these mainstream medias take these headlines and just drive it into the ground and try to scare people about this climate crisis. But here we are, starting a new trend here. And if you can't see it, then I'm sorry. You need to make an eye appointment. But we are definitely trending in the opposite direction of warming since 2016. And that is not denied. And here is 2016 data. And we have not yet seen a temperature peak since then. In fact, some are going to suggest that this is going to continue to gradually drop. Not like a rock, but over the next 10 to 20 years, you will see this. Hopefully, we're still broadcasting and showing you guys the truth about climate. So, this all just kind of flows together with space weather and climate here on Earth, and just like the rest of the solar system, the sun affects all climates. But like I said, here on this channel, we show you the science. We give you the proof, the facts. We don't guess. I don't predict. I just report. And when I make these, like today, I think a lot of people are like, "Whoa, he's just coming out and saying we're in a max." Well, yeah, I am. Just based on the location of these sunspots. And one more time, let's go back to the Space Weather Station. I mean, look at this, guys. I'm only basing my report on where these locations, we should be somewhere right around in here. Okay, if we were not in a max. Technically, the cycle starts down here and moves its way up. But the closer it gets to the equatorial region, the closer we are to the end of the max and the beginning of a minimum, which we weren't expecting a maximum until 25, including me, all right? I'm not sitting here and acting like that I knew this was going to happen. I'm just reporting on what the sun is showing us. I even agreed that the maximum was going to happen sometime in 2024, 2025. So this is a shock to me as well. And my source, the only reason that got me thinking about this was David Birch. He shared a chart with me that showed exactly where these sunspots are supposed to be during these solar cycles. And that's when the light bulb went off, and I started looking at SDO and thinking, geez, after that 177 sunspot number day, we have been pretty active. Our lull has been in the 30s and 40s. We did have a spotless day, too, which was very bizarre. I was actually on a Lee Wheelbarger show on his KLW News, and we talked about that, how we had a spotless day, and that's not supposed to happen at this point of the solar cycle. In fact, the last 4 or 5 years now, we have had a spotless day. Usually during the solar maximum, we get 3 to 4 years of days without sunspots. So in other words, we don't get a spotless day at all for at least 3 to 4 years. This cycle is already historical. So again, I'm reporting on what the sun is showing me, and it's telling me that we are positioning ourselves as we speak right now into a solar max. And this 166 is going to come back down tomorrow. We're not going to surpass that. I'll eat my hat, I guess, is what I should say, if we go past 177. I don't think so. But if we do have a day where we're like at 188 or 186, then I do believe we are going to see a fast drop and a steady decline in solar activity after that point. I'm just saying. It is a very high possibility that we could see the double peak again. And if we do get that double peak, I believe after that is where we're going to see a fast decline on solar activity, plunging us into a minimum as early as late 23 and early 24. All right, so with all this sunspot activity and stuff like that, and we're showing you how the jet streams line up with the facts that when the sun is active, obviously our jet stream is allowing, I mean, not only is our jet stream allowing this heat to travel, but we could also see the heat dome right here, folks, that is formed over the Midwest, the central part of the United States, that is dry. So sure bet that we will see a very hot July and a very hot August in these regions, especially the ones that are in the orange and pink. And those of you who are located in this region, just because your county's not lit up does not mean it's not going to be hot. Matt, sorry, bud. I don't agree with this map. Unfortunately, I think you're going to see that as well. But look at the heat going all the way up into the North Dakotas. And folks, again, that is that heat dome that's sitting right over right here. And it's transferring that heat and bringing it from in, some of the jet stream from Mexico, bringing it in from the Southwest. And it's rotating, it's circulating. And of course, we have not had the kind of rain that we would like to see in this region at all this summer. It's been pretty dry. So the longer it stays dry out here, the more heat waves we're going to expect. And again, the reason why I was talking about the heat wave is I wanted to vet this. I wanted to vet this particular story because I'm not so sure. I don't like stories that come out and say, oh, this many people died, heat-related deaths. Well, not a lot of people bought the whole COVID deaths either. Like just because you say they died of COVID, what was the cause? And then we find out, well, that was pneumonia. Well, yeah, but the COVID made it worse. Oh, okay. And just like here in this article, they don't talk about what the underlying conditions were. This person, was it heat related? There's so many factors they just skipped conveniently to add to the fear for their campaign, their propaganda. And it's propaganda if you can't question it, folks. I'm just saying. Biden vows to use executive action after Joe Manchin. Once again, he is just a thorn in Biden's side. It's kind of funny. Like, I've never seen, of course, I'm only 44, but in my lifetime, I've never seen a president have so much trouble with his own party. It's ridiculous. They can't even get together. They have the majority barely, and they can't get on the same page to get Biden's agenda done. Now, I also read a report today that the Republicans said that they want climate change solutions in the bill. They just don't want Biden's. And that kind of irked me as well, because, again, without the details of what are they talking about, there is nothing that a law can do to curb climate change in any way, period. We have an influence on the climate that is so small that nature overpowers what man does. Now, we do pollute the water. We do pollute the breathing air. I'm not saying we don't put dangerous chemicals, and we should find ways to improve our air quality and water quality. But when it comes to climate, it's not worth changing the economy globally just because there's a group of people out there who have a lot of money invested in Green New Deal. So what this means is Joe Manchin, and he could be telling the truth. He could be telling the truth, but he is saying basically him and Chuck Schumer discussed this, and that it's a decision based on this $2 trillion plan. Is that going to add to the inflation? And the bigger question, too, is this going to halt climate change? I mean, there's no real proof. And when your economy is in a recession, and it's in a recession, it's in the very beginning stages. But when your economy is in a recession, you want to do things to help ease the troubles and the worries of the average family. I'm talking about the family that makes between $40,000 and $100,000 a year. I'm not talking about people who make over $400,000 a year. You're not affected by this right now, okay? Trust me on that. You're not affected by this. People making between $40,000 and $100,000 a year are feeling the budget squeeze a little bit, and they might be cutting back. So throwing $2 trillion to our deficit and taking tax dollars and fighting an invisible war with measures and laws that won't make a difference, because based on the science and the facts that we've shown here, they say it's time for Biden to take the gloves off and deliver through an executive action, bold climate agenda that he ran and won on. Then now they're throwing it in his face. Hey, buddy, we voted for you for the climate change stuff. Yeah. Jamal Reed, the executive director of the environment non-governmental organization Evergreen Action. I'm sure if I look him up, he has tons of money tied up in this whole movement. And that's when these people start getting demanding with the president. You better put this through because we've got all this money involved in this. You told us you were going to do this. So there's a lot of people out there that are stomping their feet and throwing fits thanks to Joe Manchin. But it doesn't mean that we've won, that the globalists are going to give up because a rogue Democrat is blocking this current bill. And the reason why I say that is because we have an idiot in charge in the White House who probably will go to that extreme of executive orders on climate change laws. They want him to file a national emergency based on climate change. Folks, I want to show you something real quick, because remember, the global warmists told us all that we would be without ice at the polar caps by 2014. I didn't say that. Al Gore and his buddies said that. Let's take a look at today. This is July 15th. All right. And Tony Heller, big props to him for his attention he brought to this as well, because I think everybody was talking about sea ice today. Look at that. There are areas right now that have sea ice that we did not see sea ice here for a long time, folks. I mean, Greenland, we've already talked about the snow gain there, but we're talking about this area right here. Look, there's even in the Hudson Bay. Now, this is probably floating ice, but my point is that we're seeing ice more and more, and we're in the middle part of the summer. This is where most of the peak melt happens, between now and the second week of August. So we'll continue to watch this. I won't cherry pick. I'll show you guys the data. But it does show that the ice is getting stronger once again in the North Pole. Again, I'm not making this up. I'm showing the proof. So, as far as the climate crisis about the polar caps melting, that's false. Also, AGW, Al Gore, all of them, Greta, we will see more deadly storms, more natural disasters, more carnage, stronger hurricanes. And here we are, July 15th. And I know we don't really get ramped up until mid-August and September, but nothing, no waves. And then if there is any waves coming off the coast of Africa, we've had to deal with Saharan dust. So last year, we had 2 hurricanes make landfall that downgraded to tropical depressions. The Cat 1 up in the northeast, it was a Cat 1 for a second, and then it dropped to a tropical depression. There was another hurricane in the Gulf that approached as a Cat 1, but downgraded to a tropical depression as it made landfall. So we had 2 landfall storms last year. Thank God, 0 major hurricane impacts last year. Okay. This year, crossing fingers and knocking on wood here, we have been calm and quiet. Yes, we do get storms. We do get tornadoes. We do get that. It's called weather. So that's why I urge caution and try to open people's eyes here. They want the president to take executive directive or executive orders based on nothing. There's no information out here that's telling us that we better watch out because of all these crazy storms that we've seen in the Atlantic and the Gulf. No, that's not happening. We didn't see it last year. We're not going to see it this year because La Nina, that's right, La Nina's sticking around. Yeah, pesky La Nina. Let's take a look at the temperatures there. Look at that. It was starting to rise. I thought maybe we were going to see it peak above baseline, maybe flirt with El Nino. No. The trend has changed. We are starting to see the temperature drop back closer to the 0.5, which is the neutral zone. Well, actually, we're neutral right now, but trending back towards a third straight La Nina. Now, why is that relevant? Well, according to what I've read, what I know, that we will see more hurricanes that will stall out in the Atlantic because, of course, the high pressure, but the wind shear that will be present in the Gulf is enough to kind of widen things down as storms approach in the Gulf. Not all the way down, but it does create a little havoc in the Gulf. So there is less wind shear out in the Atlantic. So these storms have a better chance of surviving, but depending on the track it takes, it could get caught up in that high pressure jet stream and circulate all the way out into the UK. We've seen that several times. So again, I expect a repeat of hurricane season. A couple of storms make landfall very weak. We might see a Cat 1 or Cat 2 this year. I'm not saying we can't see a strong hurricane, but are we seeing Cat 5s making landfall in Florida every weekend? Did we see that last summer? No. Yes, we had severe thunderstorms and tornadoes that tore up the South this year and last year. Guess what? Every year it happens. Some years are worse than others, depending on the situation and the climate. But again, folks, it is not anything to do with you. And on top of that, where is the disasters? Where is the climate crisis? Where is the grounds for the president to file a national emergency for climate change? I don't know if you guys seen what happened in Sri Lanka. But if that happens here, where they executive order climate change measures and all these other crazy mandates, look what happened in Sri Lanka. They're broke. And the WEF said they would be rich by 2025 because of the Green New Deal policies, and they're broke. Millions of people stormed the palace. That January 6th is nothing compared to that. And I'll tell you something, folks. They've had enough. Food, they can't afford to eat. Energy's too high. Their economy's collapsing. No one's doing anything. The government fled the country. There are so many prime ministers and presidents who are resigning right now. It's scary. Some are fighting the globalists. Some are letting more globalists in. I do believe the people of Sri Lanka are fighting the globalists, for sure. They understand what's happening. Also, guys, we get censored heavily here on YouTube. How we get censored is, they stripped away our monetization because we don't believe CO2 drives the climate. That's real. That's real, folks. We go against the consensus, authoritative science. So, Team Biden and Big Tech, on top of the fact they want Biden to take off the gloves and do executive order on climate laws, now we want to censor people like us even harder. And they're trying to say that because of all the COVID misinformation, that's why these climate deniers should be shut up as well. If that's the case, our days are limited on YouTube. Absolutely. How would we broadcast? Other platforms exist? Absolutely. But this one is definitely the best option for a lot of reasons. And the hope is that we don't see any more censorship on this platform as it already is. Because look, maybe they have a right reason to ban COVID-related stuff, but when it comes down to climate science, there's too much information out there that people will use that's peer-reviewed or trusted sources. And of course, this is the first time I show a weather forecast in a long time, and we can't get the entire forecast. We got rain right now, I can tell you that, but well, I do apologize. I was hoping to show you guys some temperatures and stuff like that, but I can always do a broadcast tomorrow as well. But to my point on how hot it is, again, that is what you expect. Just because we're in the beginning of a grand solar minimum doesn't mean we're not going to see heat. The grand solar minimum and the sun does things to the jet stream, and this is what you call an omega block, I believe, here. You see all the heat extending up to the Dakotas, while the cooler temperatures are in the Northeast and the Northwest. And that's what we're experiencing right now. But the crazy part is the jet stream, if that's the case, is falling apart by the middle part of the weekend, make it dip like that. So we'll keep our eyes on this, man. There's a lot of moving parts that are continuously changing, and there's too much to keep track of. I can tell you that. Global sea surface temperature anomalies, well, we're barely above baseline, 0.0192. It is down ever so slightly since the last time we showed you this. But the point is that where is the climate crisis? Where's the climate crisis? Where is this emergency? The Gulf temperatures, they've been trending down for the past several days. We thought we were going to see a big warm up, and then boom, dropped the bottom. It's starting to warm back up a little bit, but we're only a half degree above baseline right now. So the Gulf is slightly above average. Again, to get these Cat 5 storms, we need to see something bigger than slightly above average. Okay, we need to see extreme warmth in the Gulf. Right now, it's not happening. Where is the climate crisis? Oh, you could say that the millions that are affected here in the middle part of the country are definitely in need of help here, and it's going to be hot. But this is nothing these people haven't been through before. And here on this channel, I've explained every reason why you've seen warm temperatures and have showed you with correlation of sunspot activity and how it affects our jet stream and how it looks right now. Just looking at Earth null, that's the proof that we're in. Again, AGW tells you that CO2 retains heat, and that's absolutely false. At 421 parts per million, to make an impact of a half degree, you would have to double the parts per million, around 900 parts per million, and that would only make a difference in temperature of a 0.42 degrees Celsius. That's it. So if we had 840 to 900 parts per million CO2, it would only impact temperatures by a half degree. And that's doubling it. And that rate right now, we're not on track to double CO2 in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years, because of what these people like AOC and Greta are telling us. The end of the world is coming because we're getting ready to deal with deadly CO2. The deadly CO2, I believe, is somewhere between the 5,000 parts per million. Obviously, you don't want to be at 4,000 parts per million, but that's where it gets deadly. We're in no shape to see that in the next 200 years. Unless we get some catastrophic natural disaster that causes a super volcano to go off and we have all this ash plume emitting from this volcano and just continues to go on and go on and go on. Who knows? But even if it did, even if we rose to 1,000 parts per million, it would not create a hothouse. It's not creating a hothouse now, and we're at record levels of CO2. I don't see it, folks. I don't see it. Sure, you see a trend from 79 and moving forward, but they conveniently don't want you to see the temperature data before 79 because it doesn't fit the narrative. Because it shows you there was temperature rise before all this nonsense of global warming. Natural cycles, folks, they are real. They are very real. All right, I want to say a couple of shout outs to folks out here in the chat tonight. What's up to Knife Collector? Hello to my lovely wife, Mari. Shirley Davis, good to see you out there. Patricia Clayton, thank you as always. Knife Collector, I already said you, but hello again there, fella. Rhea, good to see you. Lots of new faces out here tonight as well. Welcome to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Nick, hello there, good sir, and many, many others. Like I said, tons of new faces in here. I love it, love it, love it. This is why I don't mind taking a little bit of a break. I don't mind taking a little bit of a break because during those times where we're not on the air and we're not constantly broadcasting, Mari and I are constantly reading, constantly researching, constantly watching everything. And I feel like that sometimes these little breaks help put things in better perspective. And maybe I have a better way of wording everything with you folks that will come across in a more understandable way. If you like what you saw tonight, please share this everywhere. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and then head over to the Patreon, the Grand Solar Minimum Patreon channel. Give us a subscription there. It starts at $1, folks. Anything is greatly appreciated, folks. And that's another reason why, we're limited to broadcasting is just because of, the support, the funding. YouTube took away the monetization, so we don't have the freedom like we did back then to do the broadcast. Unfortunately, my time is taken up for other obligations. So if you would kindly, if you like our work, please check us out on Patreon and become a member. It's basically a tip jar. We're not putting anything incredible over there, but folks, we will be picking up the content this week. I plan to talk to one of our farmer friends. I think Matt Bros. He's agreed to come on and talk to us about what's going on in Nebraska and other areas around him with the crop season. Also, we have a meteorologist that we have lined up. I'll talk to you guys about more about that in detail, who is willing to come on to the show and actually admit that space weather does affect climate. So this will be interesting. I'm still working on the details. I don't know if this person wants to be anonymous, because you know what happens to folks out there who come out and work in professional anything weather and say it's cooling out. They get harassed or fired, or God forbid they don't get hurt or anything. But I mean, some of these people are that psycho about their money. So if you mess with their money, they're going to mess with you. And that's what's happened here at this channel. And that's why our monetization got stripped. We are actually convincing people, showing them the real truth and the science. And that's a big no-no when you have an organization like the World Economic Forum, who is pushing climate change agenda with $166 trillion from investors and donations. So this has to work, right? Get rid of the peons who are saying otherwise. We have too much money. This can't fail. because those guys are going to be the ones that are crucified if they can't deliver. And I'm telling you right now, they're not going to be able to deliver. Again, Joe Manchin blocking Biden once again is a great victory, but it's only a bump in the road. We have to prepare for idiotic executive orders that could come out. And again, just remember Sri Lanka, all right? Just remember Sri Lanka. Hope everyone has a good night, and we will talk soon, folks. Take care.
Do you like the show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.